This is how I clean my flute after a nice and long 3-hour practice session. As always, we start by splitting our flute into the 3 parts. And I always like to start with the foot joint because it's the one that accumulates less amount of condensation. So we're gonna get a nice little rag. This is like a material. It's kind of see-through, it's thin. Some people like to use silk. This is just to get rid of all of the condensation inside of your flute. You also don't want to use any cloth that's too thick because then it'll be almost impossible to get inside your flute. After the foot joint, as you can see, I move on to the body and ended up with the head joint because once again, this is what we blow into. This is what accumulates the most amount of condensation. Moving on to our second cloth. This one's definitely thicker. This is what's going to be in charge of cleaning all of our fingerprints and smudges outside of our flute. This one specifically is from Miyazawa. Once again, this time I like to start on the foot joint because it's probably the one that has the least amount of grease, as well as it's the shortest, so it's kind of just convenient to hold it. And I always make sure I get all of the keys where my fingers go on, so the keys and the rollers, as well as anywhere where I could have placed my hand. For example, if I'm grabbing the flute from the bottom of the foot joint, which you should never do, you want to make sure you're not leaving any oil behind because having oil on your flute while you're playing is fine as long as you always get rid of it later so your flute does not tarnish. Next, I normally go onto the body because it's the heaviest part and it's the one that has the most amount of work. Now obviously here we want to make sure we focus on all of our keys, including our thumbs, our trill keys, and our gizmo keys. Also make sure you get the nice little A-flat pinky, and you always want to make sure you're cleaning behind the keys on the body because that's where your thumbs go. And your big old thumbs probably have some big old amount of oil. Finally, on the body, you want to make sure you are cleaning the neck pretty good because that's most likely where you're going to be holding your flute. And you also want to make sure you're seeing the logo. Shout out to Haynes. This is the Haynes Classic Q3. Finally, the head joints. This one's pretty self-explanatory. There's no keys. Just make sure you wipe everything down. But most importantly, you want to make sure that you are cleaning pretty good, especially this part of the flute because that's what's going to go onto your body and we don't want to struggle while putting our flute together. And cleaning this will always help make sure there's no residue. Nice and shiny. Finally, I always like to use some anti-tarnishing strips on my flute case just in case I left any of that oil behind so it can soak it up and not tarnish my flute. P.S. Do not leave your cloths inside of your flute case. It will just take all of that moisture from them and put them right back onto the keys. And that's pretty much it.